1040. This is a bare minimum. You've got to file your 1040 by mid-June. It's not mid-April, as it is in the United States. We have automatic extensions. By mid-June, you can ask for another extension to the 15th of October, but do it. And in a minute, you're going to see the filing thresholds for that. The FBAR, you can download from the IRS website. You can fill it out online. You can submit it online now. You don't even have to print it out. You can fill it out and submit it online, and you'll get an automatic recognition, you know, that it's been filed. This is a great thing. That's wonderful. Not only that, but if you fill it out online, you can keep it for the next year and just change the amounts that are in it. But remember that, as I said this morning, I'm sure everybody in this room is going to have to file that. We're talking about 7,000 euros. At some point in the year, all of your accounts had 7,000 euros in them. Then came Form 8938, which Darlene is going to talk to us more about. I think that it's important to know that the IRS started with a filing threshold there of $50,000, not the $10,000 like FBAR, but $50,000. And due to the racket raised by organizations like FAWCO, that was raised, it was recognized that bona fide residents abroad had a different filing threshold. Bona fide residents abroad was very important for them to recognize. So that filing threshold now for bona fide residents abroad, which is a lot of people in this room, most, is now over $200,000 on the last day of the year, or over $300,000 at any time during the year. That can happen to you as it is going to happen to me, because I sold an apartment to buy an apartment, and you know. It raises the threshold considerably. So a lot of people will come in under that threshold, which is important. Tax reporting. Yes. Take this.
If you have an insurance policy that's with a foreign insurance corporation, and the cash value is added to all of your other bank accounts, throws you over that threshold, you have to file.
What kind of insurance?
Like anything that you would say for your mentor. I mean, we'll get into this, but don't think it's only about bank accounts. It's not. If you own foreign stock also, I mean, it's a real problem.
And, as I've been saying for years, and people go nuts, remember that this is, and Margaret mentioned this applies to all accounts on which you have signing authority. In other words, every club president in this room has to add her club's bank account onto the FBAR, because or treasurer, because she has signing authority on that account.
If you are paying bills for your mother-in-law, and it's a little local bank account, and if you can transfer money, then that needs to be on the FBAR.
I know a woman in France who has 5 children, little bitty kids, and as soon as those kids were born, she opened a checking account. She wanted to open a savings account for each one, so that the grandparents could put in, 10 euros here and 100 euros there. You can't do that if you don't have a checking account. So these little bitty kids all have 2 bank accounts that she's responsible for. So that goes in there. Now, there are the filing thresholds. Single is not too bad, but for example, I am, like a lot of us in this room, married, filing separately. If your husband is not included, if there's no reason for your husband to be on your U.S. tax return, you are married, filing separately. So the minute you earn the equivalent of $4,000 in a year, you should be filing your 1040. So just know this. You can have this if you want it. That was just to scare you. So what's FAWCO doing about this? Because that's what my son asks me. So you have the right to. I think that this recognition of bona fide resident abroad is really very important. Now the IRS, the Treasury Department has made that distinction for the FBAR. When I went to Washington in January, I took a thing which you can see there, or I can send to you. I took 3 points back to Washington. And Darlene mentioned the National Taxpayer Advocate last night. I met with her when I was there, and I had these 3 points and gave them to her, and she said they look very reasonable and very doable. And one of them was for the IRS to, well, this is the least doable, was for the IRS to make that same distinction and raise the reporting threshold for the FBAR as Treasury did for, as the IRS did for Form 8938, because $10,000 is just absurd. But we can hope for that. Since 2002, we've been organizing Overseas Americans Weeks in Washington with Arrow and ACA, our two main partner organizations. And we have, Mary Stewart's been there with me several times. We meet with staffers, we talk to people, we make a little bit of noise, and we make sometimes a little bit of progress.